Good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Fanton, president of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. I'm joined by Jimmy Wales, founder of Wikipedia. We've had a good President's Roundtable, and he's agreed to stay on and talk with us for a few moments. Wikipedia was founded in 2001 and has now 12 or 13 million articles, 2.8 million in English, but there are 165 other languages represented. It is the largest encyclopedia in history, having surpassed the Yongle Encyclopedia, which dates back to 1407 in the Ming Dynasty. Let me start by asking a bit about your own career progression. You were trained in finance. You began actually here in Chicago in the 1990s. What motivated you to move from finance to Wikipedia?
When I was working in finance, I was doing option pricing theory, trading, very mathematical, very computer-oriented, and as a part of my work, I was writing software to interface with the Globex, the electronic trading system that we had back then. And I was watching the development of the internet at the same time. I had been watching the growth of the free software movement, open source software, seeing freely licensed software become more and more successful. So I realized, okay, well, we need some tools so that people can collaborate, but if the internet and free licensing gives rise to an atmosphere for collaboration, it's going to be possible for people to come together and create all kinds of cultural products beyond just software. And that was really the starting point.
I'm told that F.A. Hayek had a great influence on you as you were growing up and in college. In a 1945 essay on the use of knowledge in society, he wrote that market mechanisms share and synchronize local and personal knowledge, allowing society's members to achieve diverse, complicated ends through a principle of spontaneous self-organization. That's a very visionary, prescient, but also ultimately optimistic affirmative statement. Talk to us a little bit about you and the values, the beliefs that you have, and how those find expression in Wikipedia.
Well, I'm a very big believer in reason and in the capacity of people to do benevolent and good things if they're in an atmosphere where they can respect each other's rights. In this particular essay that you mentioned, Hayek is concerned with the question of whether it's more efficient to bring all of society's knowledge into a central planning body who then makes production decisions in an economy, or is it more efficient to push the decision-making out to the endpoints where the information lives? Well, for me, when I think about that in relation to the production of knowledge in society, in relation to Wikipedia in particular, is it more efficient if we try to bring in all the world's knowledge to a group of 200 or 600 experts who then make the decisions and write down what's true? Or is it more efficient that we push all the decision-making out to the endpoints? And so that's what we do at Wikipedia. And I'm a big believer in thoughtful dialogue as the most effective means for us to move forward in understanding the world and testing our own ideas by chewing on them with other people. So all of those values, I think, have some expression in the way that Wikipedia works.
I gather Nature magazine did a study a few years ago looking at the rate of accuracy of Wikipedia and the Encyclopedia Britannica, finding them almost identical, and this was on topics of science and technology. That must have been pretty rewarding for you to see the results of that study. Tell us about that and about how your community reacted to the fact that there were some errors.
Study wasn't quite as favorable to us as that expression. we had an average of 4 errors per article, and Britannica had an average of 3. So, of course, Britannica said, well, we're 33% worse than they are. I think for a lot of people, what was really interesting about that was not that there were 4 errors per article in Wikipedia, this was 3 years ago, but that there were 3 per article in Britannica. It's an interesting thing to realize that Britannica is full of errors. And when I say that, I don't mean it as a criticism of Britannica. I mean it as a statement about how, even with the best processes, even with a lot of thoughtfulness that goes into it, it's really, really difficult to do very high quality reference material. And while we want to minimize error, we shouldn't have an unrealistic standard and assume that we've completely failed if we still have some amount of error. What I thought was really interesting about that, and as you mentioned, was the response of the Wikipedia community. People in the Wikipedia community who came to me and they said, Jimmy, can you get us a list of the errors because we want to correct the errors. That was their first response, which was a very happy moment for me to know that the community didn't think that our job was to minimize or deny that there were errors, but our job is to fix the errors. And I think that's really a core value for our community.
You have the ambition that every person in the world would have access to Wikipedia. Talk to us about how you see other countries that are not now much involved with Wikipedia getting involved, and talk to us especially about a place of great poverty like Africa, and what your aspirations are there, but also talk to us about the complexity of working in a rising part of the world, China.
I always say, I want people to imagine a world in which every single person on the planet is given free access to the sum of all human knowledge. So that goal, as stated, implies a lot of things. Right now, depending on whose numbers you believe, how you measure it, there are about 1 billion people online. And in the next 5 to 10 years, we expect the next billion to come online. Well, that's still only 2 billion out of 6 billion or 7 billion. I'm not sure how many people there are these days. So a long way to go before the internet will be everywhere. So one of the things that I believe is that we are going to need to look at non-internet modes of distribution. One of the things that we see happening in the developing world is far more people are coming online through their mobile device earlier than computers. So for most people on the planet, the first access they're going to have to the internet is through their mobile device. Well, this is great. This is fine for us in a certain sense, but in another sense it's a problem. To tell you what I mean, if you're on a mobile device and you can read Wikipedia, this is really great. You actually have the ability to access all the world's knowledge right in your hand. It's a little hard to read on a small screen, but it's okay. But for people to be able to participate in editing and in creating content on their mobile device, I don't think that's ever going to be particularly easy. So we're really interested in figuring out how can we cultivate authors to write in different languages around the world. And we have a lot of experience in doing this now, but we still have a lot to learn. So in terms of a bright spot, one of the bright spots that we have is India. A lot of the Indian languages of Wikipedia have been growing very quickly. I just came back, I was just in India 5 days ago and spoke to a university there, and 2,500 students came out to hear my talk, and they were just screaming and yelling and cheering. And in Africa, things are much tougher. We only have 2 languages, 2 African languages of any size of note. This would be Swahili and Afrikaans. Both of those are nearing 10,000 entries. And then all the other languages of Africa, we have very, very little. And the reasons for that are fairly obvious. One of the huge problems is illiteracy. Access to computer technology. If you cannot afford to get on the internet or to have a computer, you're not going to even know about Wikipedia or be able to connect to it. So there's a lot of challenges in Africa. One other country of interest that you mentioned is China. China is now as I understand the latest numbers, is now the country with the largest number of people on the internet. They've just passed the US in terms of people with access to the internet, which is a pretty remarkable fact. But China is also a very authoritarian country. And Wikipedia, in fact, was banned in China for just over 3 years. We've seen a general thawing in the last year of the firewall. They've softened it. They've opened up access to a lot of websites that were previously unavailable. How long will this last? I don't know. I tend to be an optimist. I tend to think that the Chinese government has begun to realize that there are real costs of not allowing people access to Wikipedia.
Another country MacArthur has a great interest in is Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And we've sponsored through the Berkman Center a study worldwide looking at where internet access has been filtered. And Russia turns out to be pretty open. Do you have that same experience? Is there interest in Russia? That
is my experience. With Russia, we've never had any problems with access. It's generally open. I'm not so sure that this is because of any kind of really firm and principled commitment to freedom of expression on the part of the Russian government. I think it's more a matter of cost of technology and that they are a little disorganized, and it just hasn't been a priority for them. So I am concerned that at some point that Russia could, emerge as a country that engages in heavy filter of the internet. So far, it seems okay.
Just to complete our sampling as we tour the world, you surprised me by saying that there was a lot of interest in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And also there have been some incidents where people have been harassed or even arrested for accessing Wikipedia. Can you talk to us about Iran? What explains this?
Yeah. Well, what's really interesting to me is that in the Farsi language Wikipedia, there's a really enthusiastic community and a really great community. I've talked to a lot of them. The concerns that we might have in certain places about neutrality and our religious extremists taking control of Wikipedia or whatever, they don't seem to be a real problem. There's a really strong feeling on the part of lots and lots of people all over the world that access to good quality basic information like you would find in an encyclopedia is important, and it's important enough for people to actually take some risks to make it happen. And these people are heroes, in my opinion.
This has been a remarkable story, and the growth rate continues. But with any movement, any phenomenon, there are problems, challenges. What have been some of the difficult issues or challenges you've had to face, including vandalism and contentious behavior, debates and fights and all the rest? What if you were to pick 2 or 3 problems that you yourself have had to think about and worry about, what would they be?
So I'll pick 3, I think, because I think there's something interesting to be said about each of them. So one is the problem of vandalism. Wikipedia is a very open editing model, which means anybody can come and change an article at any time. And some people just want to be malicious, or they want to test the system, so they'll put in curse words or things like this. Well, this is an ongoing problem, but it's actually a fairly minor problem. So it's a problem in the same kind of sense that you might say that graffiti is a problem in the subways in Chicago. Yes, it's a problem, but it's not really sort of destroying anything. Another interesting set of problems has to do with biographies of living people. If we have a biography that contains errors, particularly if it contains information that's negative and not verifiable or not true, this can have actually a real damaging impact on people. And the community is very sensitive to that and has over time developed a whole set of rules and protocols and procedures to try to make sure that these problems are kept to the absolute minimum. And then finally, I guess the thing that has always been a real challenge is that There are some debates within Wikipedia which are surprising sometimes to outsiders and ongoing and endless and difficult. So most people imagine that the big debates within Wikipedia would be, somehow the party of the left versus the party of the right, broadly construed, sort of battling out the political things. But it turns out that within Wikipedia, if you look at an entry like George W. Bush or Barack Obama, yes, they get edited a lot, yes, there's some controversy, but within the community, there's almost no controversy. Pretty much within the core community, whatever people's personal politics are, they have a pretty solid general understanding about neutrality, a generally shared vision of what that should look like, and we don't really have a lot of internal acrimony about it. It's an ongoing project and lots of work. The real debates within Wikipedia are on fairly arcane editorial matters. We have huge and endless debates about things like inclusionism versus deletionism, as we call it. So the inclusionists would tend to want to have an entry on many, many more things than a deletionist would want to have. And they both have arguments that have a great deal of validity. An inclusionist would say, well, why shouldn't we have an entry on as many things as possible? We should be very expansive in our view of what should be in Wikipedia. The deletionist will argue, and also with good reasons, we can't always maintain articles in a very high quality if we don't have enough information. Sometimes, although you might wish you could write an entry about something, there just simply aren't reliable sources, and so it's too easy to be hoaxed and things like this. But these sort of broad political parties, so to speak, within Wikipedia butt heads all the time and clash and have endless discussions and debates.
Are there moments when the community gets together in person?
Once a year we have Wikimania, which is our annual conference. We had it the first year in Frankfurt. The second year we had it at Harvard University. The Berkman Center actually hosted us. Then we had it in Taiwan. This year it's in, we're going to be in Buenos Aires. It's a place for the community to come together once a year and really assess where we are, where we're going. We like to have academics come in and tell us what we're doing right and doing wrong. We like to have community members talking about proposed software features or proposed community rules. So that's once a year. But we also have local meetups everywhere, and these are spontaneously organized by the community. A lot of what goes on at those meetings is discussions and planning and work that's actually not about the editing of Wikipedia, but about reaching out to academics, to libraries, trying to persuade people to put more material into the public domain, put more material under a free license so that we can use it in Wikipedia. You know, the word community is abused a lot. Yeah. People say community when they just mean the general public. When we say community, we really mean community. We really mean people who are friends. They know each other. And so these kinds of face-to-face meetups are really important.
But it sounds like there are certain values that the community shares, or certain characteristics. If you were to pick 3, 4, 5 words that characterize the values of this community, purposes, principles, what would they be?
I think when we look at the main core community, the most active editors, and we think about the shared values, and of course, in any community, you're going to have internal dissension and debate and dialogue. And so not everybody will agree with every point, but the almost universal values would be that Wikipedia should be neutral, that Wikipedia is not anybody's platform for propaganda, that we should really try hard to remain neutral, that quality is really important, that quality meaning accuracy, readability, we're very old-fashioned about, reliable sources and things like that. That's a shared value. I guess one of the shared values I implicitly already mentioned, which is that we value having a community culture where open dialogue and dissent is not just tolerated but appreciated. But that idea of openness to having trying to maintain an active mind about change. Let's not get too fossilized in saying we do this because that's the way we do it. If somebody comes and challenges us, hey, why are you doing it this way? We should always be willing to step back and say, okay, well, here's our reasons, but you've raised a point we hadn't thought of before. We maybe need to adjust something.
You set Wikipedia up as a foundation, as a not-for-profit. Tell us about that decision and about what your plans are for its sustainability.
My idea for Wikipedia is that Wikipedia is it's a universal cultural institution that I hope has a positive impact on the world in the next 100 or 500 years. And it's something that people are going to look back on and remember. When people 200 years from now look back at the early days of the internet, they're going to say, you know, that Wikipedia was special. That was, people really came together in a humanitarian way, in a thoughtful way to try to build something useful and important. And being in a nonprofit just makes sense for that kind of effort and for what we're trying to do.
And how will it sustain itself?
The traditional funding for Wikipedia has been, the majority of it has always been small donations, $50 to $100, 50 to 100 euros. The average gift is $35 or so. Obviously, support from foundations. We've got some foundation grant money that's been very helpful in helping us build the infrastructure of the organization so that we can more effectively raise money from the general public. And then the other thing is that we're beginning to explore, but in a very cautious and careful way, how we can use our brand name to bring in revenue, but it has to be in ways that are consistent with our values and consistent with our mission. And so we're not all about trying to milk every last penny out of the Wikipedia brand. So don't expect to see, Wikipedia brand breakfast cereals anytime soon. Although, nothing wrong with breakfast cereals, it just doesn't match our mission.
Yeah.
But we are interested in looking at opportunities to say, well, can we find deals with mobile carriers where maybe they can sell more cell phones by saying you can access Wikipedia
Sure.
easily, but if they're going to use our name to sell cell phones, they should give us a piece of the revenue. It helps them sell phones, it helps us get access because more people can get access through Wikipedia and bring in some revenue.
Final question. If you were to fast forward 5 years, what will Wikipedia look like, and what are your 1 or 2 or 3 highest aspirations for it?
And for me, where my heart lies and what I think is really exciting is the growth of Wikipedia in the languages of the developing world. We've now seen Wikipedia grow to be very, very large in English, German, French, Polish, Japanese, Swedish, Dutch, all of these languages we've seen grow from being non-existent, very small, and to grow and grow and grow. Right now we're seeing that same kind of growth, the same kind of pattern, the same kind of problems and the same kinds of overcoming of the problems by the community in many, many, many other languages. And so when I think about 5 years out, what I really think about and where I think we're going to see some really interesting impacts is I think about what begins to happen in the world when every person who speaks Arabic has access to Wikipedia, at least through a mobile phone, and Arabic language Wikipedia is as large and comprehensive and high quality and neutral as English Wikipedia. What does that do for the ability of those people to build their civil society, to move forward in a way that is healthy? That's just one language, Arabic. Now we can think about Thai, we can think about Chinese, we can think about Japanese, we can think about all the languages of the world. I think it's important, and I think that growth all around the world is, for me, what I think is going to be in the long run the thing that really opens people's eyes.
We spoke a few moments ago about words that characterize the values of the Wikipedia community. I would add optimism and idealism. It seems to me this is a community that believes the world can be better. The world can open opportunity for even the poorest of its citizens, and the world can be more peaceful through conversation, through debate, through knowledge that is neutral, objective, accurate, but arrived at together by consensus, not but top down. So optimism and idealism, reason and hope are words that I would use to characterize this community. We've been talking with Jimmy Wales, founder of Wikipedia, and we thank you very much for being part of this President's Roundtable.
Very good, thank you.
Good.